Hey guys, it's Zinc here, and we have the Spanish Grand Prix highlights for you today. We're starting in P15, not the greatest of qualifyings unfortunately. The AI sometimes are a little bit OP when it comes to qualifying, but we managed to get a pretty good grid slot, 0.2 meters away. And as the lights go out, we've got Vettel in front of us, Schumacher behind us. Ideally, we'll make up some spaces. We get an alright start, but we got a little bit of tyre spin as we go through the second and third gear. As we move our way up, we get into the slipstream of Vettel. We've got Schumacher right behind us. He's less than 0.1 of a second behind. We get into some free air, and as we brake, we actually slightly get caught by the curb, and we actually end up drifting on it, which caused us to go really wide. But we managed to kind of keep position, thanks to Albon and Schumacher fighting behind us. Gasly goes a bit wide, and we manage just to get straight past him as we go through. Now we got Vettel in front of us. We brake a little bit late, so we go a little bit to the left to make sure we don't make any contact. And as we come through, we can see there's going to be a little bit of a bunching up on the inside, so we go through, and according to Vettel, we don't exist, so we're having to take a little bit of the curb, even though we were pretty fair alongside him, and we managed to get ahead. Moving on through to lap 2, we're coming up, there's a little bit of fighting in front of us, which luckily in this year's game, the AI fight a lot. So we're able to get onto the outside of Tsunoda going in through to the turn. We're holding on, we've got Magnussen and Bottas in front of him. We managed to swoop back in behind Tsunoda. As we go through, Magnussen has a little bit of a moment with Bottas as they hit, which causes Tsunoda to slow down a bit, so we managed to get through the inside, which is bit of a risky move, especially in lap 2 when the tyres are a little bit cold, but we managed to get up inside, and taking the outside line we can flick our way through, braking a little bit later, and then as you can see we managed to swoop right back in behind Bottas. So now as we have a little bit of a moment as we try to go onto the main straight, that corner is pretty hard, and that does lose us a considerable amount of time. But luckily we are fairly fast in a straight line, but because of that, Tsunoda's just right behind us, having to use a little bit of overtake. Working away as though you could see, we pretty much made almost like half a second going down the main straight with a little bit of overtake onto Bottas, and trying to follow him a bit through the corner. See if we can get some moves made. We don't want to end up in a DRS train behind these guys, as Lewis, who's currently in first, is beginning to get a little bit ahead of us as we purple the first sector, so we're definitely pretty quick in the straight line at the moment. Skipping on to just at the start of lap 4, the AI once again in front of us are fighting. Bottas and Ricciardo having a bit of a moment. They have a massive touch which causes Bottas to go out wide. Ricciardo has pretty bad line. We managed to swoop past Bottas. We leave him a little bit of position in case he wants to try to get down the inside, but he doesn't, so we managed to, once we get through, we quickly check to see if...
They're on fresh mediums. Their tyres are 3 laps old. We think they've got one more stop. The car ahead has some minor front wing damage, but is currently maintaining its pace. And the time last lap was a 1:22.8. This is excellent stuff. You're closing in by 7/10 a lap.
As you can see, Ricciardo in front of us has wing damage, which means we have a pretty decent chance of getting past him, assuming he doesn't choose to pit here. And as you can see, it almost feels like we're beginning to push him around the corners as he struggles to get around some of the tighter, slower corners. Managed to get a pretty good exit here, so DRS is activated. We should be able to get past pretty easily. He begins to cover the inside, but we managed to get past. And we'll cut across just as we're in front of him to make sure we can get back onto the racing line. Taking a little bit deep there, braking a little bit late, but now we've got Magnussen in front of us who we're going to be hunting after, but as you can see, Ocon in front is already 5 seconds ahead, so all of the squabbling going along where we were has cost us a bit of time. As we go through a yellow flag, someone in front of us is not having a good time. Max Verstappen out of the race. As we take an outside view, in case you missed it, you can see Verstappen just parked up on the left of your screen there, which gives us another position. Skipping on to lap 6, we've got Magnussen in front of us, who we're going to want to get past pretty soon. As you can see, Ocon's now about 4.5 seconds down the road, so we really need to get a wriggle on if we want to start making positions and not end up having a race by ourselves. We managed to take the outside line to Magnussen, and now the main hunt is to try catch up back to Ocon. Now this lap was actually the fastest, I believe, we had on the mediums, so we're just going to ride along with it.
Okay, gap to the car ahead is 3.6 seconds.
And as we come through back onto the straight, as you can see, we managed to get the fastest lap with a 120.78. And moving on to lap 12, you can see Leclerc's pitted. We've made another position, but we're still 4.5 seconds off Ocon, which is pretty decent amount of time to make. We've got Magnussen, who's out of our DRS, luckily, so at least we're not dragging him along, but that's quite a lot of time to make up down the road, considering the amount of laps left, and we're also going to need to be pitting pretty soon. So moving on to lap 14, you can see you're having a little bit of trouble getting on the traction, turning in. This is the lap which we're going to choose to pit. We're going on to the hards. As we come into the pit lane, we need to get a decent amount of time. We're going to be coming out pretty close to some traffic which is behind us. Luckily we managed to get pretty optimal turn in. And as we get away, really looking at the mini-map on our bottom left, we can see, I believe Albon is going to be coming around the corner. Yeah, it's Albon who chooses to pit, so it's Tsunoda who we're wanting to get in front of. And you can see it's going to be pretty tight as we come out, but we really need to get in front of this. Our tyre's going to be super cold as well, so it's going to be a bit of a hairy first lap. We have to take it quite slowly, but luckily we managed to at least get ahead, really by the skin of our teeth. He's only like 100th of a second behind. As you can see, there's a little bit of squabbling behind us as Stroll and Tsunoda have a little bit of contact, which gives us a little bit of breathing space as we try to get our tyres up to temperature. Coming through there, you can see Tsunoda behind us has lost about 0.3 in the space of 2 corners, thanks to the little bit of a squabbling going on behind us, which definitely works into our advantage. We wouldn't have wanted to come out even just behind Tsunoda. And as we come through the final few corners, we're kind of managing to keep Tsunoda out of our DRS. It's flicking between one second and not. Now the question is going to be, considering we pitted about a lap earlier than some of the people in front of us, where are we going to come out? It's Magnussen who we want to see if we come out in front of or not. I mean, see on our right hand side he's coming out, but we managed to get out in front of him. He's going to have to get his tyres warmed up, so we should be alright keeping him behind us for the time being. And as you can see, we're coming up to Carlos Sainz, who is out of the race, so that promotes us up another position, which puts Ocon and Alonso in front of us, with Ocon who still needs to pit. Moving on to lap 19, going on to 20, you can see we've got about 4 seconds off from Ocon, who we're going to be hunting down pretty much for the rest of the race. Moving on to lap 22, another update. We managed to get the gap to Ocon down to 2.5 seconds, who's fighting alongside Norris, which is why we've managed to catch up so much. They're losing time to us thanks to them fighting with each other. And skipping along through to the start of lap 23.
Just ahead, push for the position, and gap to the car in front is 1.4 seconds. Okay, they're on old hard tyres. Their tyres are 6 laps old. The car ahead ahead has damaged the front wing, but it seems fairly minor. Your last lap time was a 1 minute 24.6. Okay, keep this going. We're gaining by around 4 seconds a lap.
As you can hear, Norris in front of us has a little bit of wing damage, probably from some contact between him and Ocon. That's going to allow us to pretty much get past him pretty quickly, but we really don't want to lose too much time trying to get past him, because he's going to hold us up a little bit until we get onto the main straight. And so if we keep an eye on our delta to Ocon, how much time we're going to end up losing or not, it's hovering around 1.4 seconds as we come through the slower parts of this lap, following him through. Also keeping our distance a bit because we don't want to plow into the back of him. Luckily we haven't managed to lose too much time to Ocon, so Norris's front wing isn't too badly damaged, but chucking on the DRS and the overtake trying to get past. We look at the inside but manage to flick down into the outside. And as we go outboard, manage to get past pretty cleanly, taking the inside line. There's nowhere else Norris can really go, and then we continue on. Moving on to lap 27, just a progress update on how we're trying to catch up to Ocon. We've lost a bit of time, so we did pit slightly earlier, which means his tyres are going to be a lot fresher, but we're currently about 3 seconds off the pace, and we're really trying to catch up to him because we're not too far off the podium. So coming through here, suddenly something happens, and we've got the Alpine of Alonso flying off the track backwards towards us, and as we jump onto the onboard of Ocon, we can just see that Alonso just loses the car. I initially thought they had contact, but it looks like no contact was made. But that means we're managing to get pretty close to Ocon. That definitely saved us quite a bit of time. And moving on to lap 31, we're actually just going to stay on board for the rest of the race, because essentially this is the hunt of us on a lot older tyres by maybe 2 laps from memory, trying to hunt down Ocon in kind of a fairly similarly paced car, at least, with the differences between the Mercedes and the Alpine. So we're going to just be hovering around, being in DRS, not in DRS, really trying to hunt to get that podium finish. And as you can see, we've got Tsunoda who's been lapped behind us, and that is making us a little bit cautious. We really don't want him to try and dive bomb us, as that could cost us a bit of time, cause contact as the car tries to unlap itself.
Okay, just 2 laps of fuel remaining now.
And as we go through the last corners before we go on to the final lap, we manage to keep within DRS, but we don't get an amazing exit. So as we activate the DRS, we're still over a second off thanks to us going through the detection zone at an alright time. But that was basically, this was our last chance. There's not going to be many other chances where we can actually get back close, and even we take that corner a little bit too deep, we basically ruin the chances. And that's probably going to be it, unless we can do something pretty special. And as you can see, Ocon's pretty comfortably ahead of us, going into the final DRS zone where we actually have a chance, but we're already a second behind. I think unfortunately just having slightly more worn hards probably stopped us from being able to catch up. As you can see, our teammate comes through in first. Perez pretty close behind him, considering he got the fastest lap a second after the first place thing came through. coming through the final corners, it's not going to happen, but still from 15th on the grid up to 4th managed to do a pretty alright strategy after a pretty shoddy qualifying, and we come across the line P4.
And I can see the drivers starting to approach the podium for the victory celebrations.
As you can see, from 15th to 4th on the grid, we're just keeping in front of our teammate Lewis. Mercedes as a constructor's doing alright, we're probably on track to at least come second so far. Thanks for watching, and we're on to Monaco, which should be fun next race.